So I'm a leadership coach, and I work with leaders and future leaders to help them put stressful events in their life into perspective by helping them to see those events differently. Now, when I was at school learning how to put things in my own life into perspective, I remember being in grade 12, halfway through my final year at school, and I went to a little boarding school in Brisbane called TEDxYouth College. And I remember getting invited into the principal's office. Anyone been there? Anyone think they might? Now, the principal was good enough to share with me that he felt I should receive the rest of my education at another institution. In other words, I didn't get to finish my schooling at Nudgee. Now, that was a really tough conversation. And I'm so glad now that it happened. Really glad, because in life, we get two types of experiences. We get lessons and we get blessings. Woot, woot. Just practice this with me. Woot, woot. So we get lessons or we get blessings. Now, the way that we conquer the spectrum of perspective, because perspective is a spectrum, and it's from lessons to blessing. The quicker we can take an event in our life, a stressful event, and take it from a lesson to a blessing, the better we're going to feel. Now, if I show you 3 ways to do that today, if I show you 3 ways to take a lesson to a blessing, would you be willing to do me one favour? And that favour is to make someone else feel better by the end of today. Is that okay? Who's willing to do that? Great. Actually, just hold on a second. I can't actually see. Oh, hold on. I'll get my glasses on. See, the thing about perspective and spectrum is that they've both got the same Latin root. And that Latin root is spect. And what spect means is to see or to look at things differently. Now, changing our perspective is about what lens we look at our life through. I'm going to show you today how to upgrade your perspective with resilience, how to upskill your perspective taking with reframing, and how to upskill your perspective by caring for others and reassuring others. And again, what I'm going to look at life through, and I hope you do too after today, is not through glasses, through spectacles. Spectacles, and get a clear view of your life. Now, upgrade. Upgrading your perspective taking with resilience. Resilience is defined by the neuroscientist Yuri Rosso as advancing despite adversity. Advancing despite adversity. Now, what that means is that we don't let anything stop us. When we set a goal, we get through the adverse moments, we get through adversity, and we keep going. Now, Yuri Rosso has measured the improvement, the increase, the upgrade in people's resilience after resilience training. And he's seen an improvement in that. And I've seen that, and this is really important for future leaders. I've seen that in my leadership coaching. For the last 3 years particularly, I've done over 700 one-on-one leadership coaching sessions. And do you know what? The more resilient leaders are happier, healthier, more successful, and they create high-performing teams. Let me tell you a story, though. Let me tell you a story about this particular young man. Now, this particular young man happens to be my son, Toby. Now, when Toby was in grade 1 at St. John the Baptist School in Gladstone, Toby came home in his first day or his first week in grade 1, and he said to his mum and dad, I'm going to be the school captain. We said, really? Because he said he looked at the 2 students that were up on the stage with a microphone and he said, I'm going to do that. We said, great. But then what happened was, at the end of Toby's primary school, they were announcing school captains. And the school captain at St. John the Baptist School, Gladstone, Queensland, for 2010 was not Toby Guinea, sadly. Toby was shattered, really disappointed about that. That was a goal that he'd set first week of grade 1. Very, very down on himself. Came down the next morning, like very happy, like I'm even going to do a skipping motion, because that's like, it was like, he came down really, really happy. And his mum and I said, Tobes, what's going on? And he said, Mum and Dad, don't worry. They have school captains in grade 12 too. Advancing despite adversity. What Toby did, which I love, Toby took that goal and he expanded that goal. He didn't look at it like this. He didn't look at the adversity. He looked at the advancement. And he said, looked at it like this, and he said, I can do that. I'm not going to give up, which I really, really love. Now, let me ask you this. Who in here has had a goal they've set and have struggled with some adversity? Great. Good. Next time that happens, what I want you to do is this. Ask yourself this. When the chips are down, when times are tough, how can I be successful at this? How can I advance despite adversity? Toby, in grade 12, got school captain. And that's how he did it. Let's talk about upskilling and upskilling your resilience taking. Now, your upskilling is all about what we call reframing. Who's heard of the word reframing? Good. Reframing means putting a different frame around a situation. Now, that's the definition. The science is this. Let me give you the opposite of reframing first, if I could, please. So the opposite of reframing is what's called rumination. See, reframing is about positively explaining a negative situation. Positively explaining a negative situation. Right? Now, a study from the University of British Columbia from 2021 talked about the opposite of reframing, and that word is rumination. Now, what rumination means is negative self-talk, like getting down on ourselves. The study was on students. Now, that study found that students ruminate negative self-talk for 48 to 72 hours after a stressful exam. Has anyone done that? 48 to 2 to 3 days after a stressful exam. Now, it's not just a stressful exam that we ruminate about or negative self-talk about. Did you know that interpersonal relationships, conversations, are the biggest causes of rumination for us as humans? How we get on with other people. Now, let me tell you about this particular person. Now, this particular person is Zach Guinea. Zach's our second eldest. Now, when Zach was at school, so Toby was the school captain while Zach was on a good behaviour bond for a year for swearing at a female student in the playground. Now, Zach was really, really angry about that particular situation. Not angry about what he did. He accepted that, known that, but angry about the punishment. He said the punishment doesn't fit the crime. Here's the words that he used. It is unfair. It's unfair. Now, after that 12-month period, which was amazing, Zach came to his mum and dad, and he got through that. And he didn't have to have the principal conversation that I had to have. He was going to. He had a conversation with the principal that went something like this, and the teachers, Zach, you've done so well. Could you now be a coach or a mentor to other young students who are struggling with their behaviour? Could you be the role model for them? Amazing. And he did, and he became a role model. See, and when Zach talks about this particular experience, Zach talks about that with doom and gloom when it started, a red frame. He talked about how unfair life was. But then he said, do you know what? He said, I learnt during that year that I could use my voice, I could use my language, I could use my people skills to help, not hurt, to heal, not harm, to actually uplift others. Those people skills that Zach learnt then in his grade 11th year, or his 12th year, grade 11, have set him up for success. He can look at that situation differently now. Let me ask you, who in here feels like life's unfair occasionally? Who feels like they've been a bit hard done by? Absolutely. Now here's the thing. Next time that happens, the quicker you can do what Zach did, go from lessons to blessings, reframe, the better you're going to feel. Now the way you do it is ask yourself this question: what can I learn? What did I learn? What did I learn from that? Leaders share with me, and they thank me in my coaching sessions for teaching them the art of reframing. It's the thing that they're most grateful for. It's the thing that changes their life so much. As young leaders, as future leaders, please think about how you can learn from these life events and take lessons and turn them into blessings. Now, the last thing that I would like to share with you is how to uplift your perspective taking. Now, the definition of that, or the definition that I've given uplift, is to reassure. So we've done upgrade with resilience, upskill with reframing. Now we're going to do uplifting with reassuring. What I mean by that is reassuring others that pain is temporary, that this too shall pass, that they can get through this situation. Now that's easier than it sounds. The best coaches, the best mentors, the best psychologists come at this with what we call lived experience. Lived experience. Now, what they know is this, that their story matters. Their story matters. And can I tell you something? Your story matters. And your story matters. And sharing your story with others uplifts them. Let me tell you my story, because my story matters. When I was young, when I was 21, I went to work. I was working as an electrician. And I got asked to measure something in an electrical switchboard that really wasn't isolated correctly for the work we were going to do. And I chose to use a steel ruler in that switchboard. Repeat after me. Actually, repeat after me. That was silly, wasn't it? Yes. Now, the result of me measuring in a switchboard with a steel ruler was that switchboard exploded, blew up in my face. And I sustained second-degree burns to 15% of my body. The skin of my hands, my arms and my face and my neck, some of it was actually blown off. I had potential internal burns as well, so I had to go to intensive care to make sure I was okay internally. Then I went off to the burns unit in Brisbane, where they had to forcibly remove the dead skin. I know that sounds pretty horrific. And it took 4 to 5 weeks in the burns unit of having that skin removed daily for the new skin growth to come through. I'd received what we call partial thickness burns to the top layers of my skin. I'd come into contact with 20,000 degrees of heated air, ionised air. Now, for 10 years, that was a lesson. And I was in what we call post-traumatic trauma. There's this thing called post-traumatic stress. It took me 10 years to go from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth. Then I could start sharing this story with others. And I do now. I share with others things like how to stay safe at work. I share with leaders how to make better decisions and think about the consequences of our actions. But that post-traumatic growth was a long process. I'm glad I went through it. Now, let me ask you this. Has anyone in this room gone through an explosion or something like that? Hopefully not. But something that... Has anyone in here had trauma, had a life-changing event? A few people in the room. What's really key when that happens is to ask yourself this. Who can I share that story with? Who do I care enough about to share that story? With the intent of helping another human. Who can I care for? Who do I care for enough? Now, some people don't have the lived experience to share with others and to reassure them and to uplift them. Remember that promise that you made, or that commitment you made at the start of the session where you said you will make someone else feel better about themselves. Is that still cool? Yeah? Let me show you 3 ways to do that. The first one is to be there. Be there, be present, be mindful. Look at someone else, and when they're talking to you, if they need reassurance, be with them. Listen, and the easiest way to be there is to smile. Smile at another human. Smiles are contagious, people smile back. Now, next one is to be aware. As students, you will never have more people in your court than you do right now. You have teachers, you have parents, you have clergy, you have your coaches and your mentors. Please be aware of that. And use those two beautiful words. What are the two beautiful words when people are helping us? What are they? Thank you. Great work. Absolutely. And thank you. Now the last one is to share. Share what Lewis Howes calls your time, talent, or your treasure. People that come through our leadership training workshops, and some of you might one day. I will give this away by the end of the day. We give it to leaders on day one of our training programs. We ask them to come back on day 2 and tell us who they've given it to. It's gone to cancer wards, it's gone to homeless mums, it's gone to all sorts of places, and there's been a lot of tears. It's only $20, but it makes a big difference when you share something of yourself, your time, talent, or your treasure. Now, by the end of the day, pick one of these. Smile, say thank you, or give some of your time, talent, and your treasure. Finally, as I start finishing this session, no talk on perspective is complete without the glass half full, empty. Let's start with the empty, the pessimists. They look at this glass and say it's half empty, there's not enough in there. The water represents our life, our love, all of the things that we get, our opportunities. The optimists look at it and say, look at all the water in there. They say, how good's that? They say, at least it's not empty. Now, if you're ever worried about the amount of water in your glass, can I get you to think about these 4 words? I want to leave you with 4 words today. And this is the 4 words that I want to leave you with. If you're ever worried about how much water is in your glass, get a bigger glass. Now, if you're ever worried about the size of your glass, repeat after me. Thank you.